How do relationships turn toxic? Relationships have a tendency to, over the course of time, operating at the level of the lowest common denominator between two people. So, what that means is, where do two people connect at the most basic level? So if two people connect at a highly intellectual level, that relationship, the lowest common denominator of the relationship is that baseline of the intellectual communication. So more than likely, the relationship will then be predominantly intellectual and mind heavy. Similarly, if of the two people in the relationship, both of them are connecting at a level of anger or negativity of some form, that relationship's lowest common denominator is going to be that level of anger or toxicity or negativity. So then when life stressors come into picture, the partners in the relationship both will resort to coming to that basal instinct and that lowest mode of operation. So for example, the previous couple that were operating intellectually, maybe they won't be so much connected with their feelings, but at least they'll try to resolve the issues at an intellectual level, not at a level of toxic emotionality. They most likely won't blow up, and most likely will try to resolve the problems intellectually. Now, I'm not saying intellectualization of a problem is always a good thing, but at least this couple whose lowest common denominator is to resort to intellectual ways of resolving issues, they will do probably a better job than the couple whose lowest common denominator is anger and blowing up. So when two people come into a relationship, it's very important for them to understand where that lowest common denominator is in the relationship, because that's going to allow them to then start to focus on, okay, so our lowest common denominator is this. How do we evolve from here? And two people can start at a very low common denominator where there is toxicity and anger and negative emotionality all the time happening. But once you realize that that's your baseline, and if both of you are willing to work on that baseline, then that relationship will evolve. Similarly, two people can start at a great lowest common denominator, but if one or both parties aren't keeping up with their emotional quotient or EQ or emotional intelligence, and one reason or the other, this person or both the parties involved are depleting their EQ, that relationship can turn toxic because their lowest common denominator is constantly, over the course of time, taking a nosedive. All right? So it's very important for us to understand when we come into a relationship with somebody where our lowest common denominator is. All right? That's Coach KP. Peace.